everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Born to Rise book project. I'm here with our beautiful author, Alexa Gorman, and I'm just super excited to introduce you to her. She's been actually not only an author and contributing, author to the book, but she's been our behind the scenes gal too, really helping us stay on track and organized with World Changers Media. So welcome, Alexa. How are you today? Nice to have you.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you.
Good. Well, we
feels really good.
Good. Well, we want to get to know you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I am born and raised, grew up in Connecticut. I have my bachelor's in journalism. I have my own business. Kind of like gone with the flow when it comes to my career and following my passions. And I'm really happy to be where I am today. So yeah, still live in Connecticut. I've got my partner, 2 doggos, and a bunny that I love. So do.
Just that description tells us a lot about yourself. You're a big-hearted person. We've got a lot of pets. We got to be able to, stay open. Yeah, and part of the reason I wanted you to be and was excited that you were in this book is because of that idea of what you said, the flow. Like you're just someone who's on a path that you direct, but you're also very present and open, I can tell. So in leading up to that, does that have anything to do with what you might consider is something that is rising for you? Like we're born to rise. Like what does that really mean for you?
I think it's about this idea of rising into our higher self, and that's on the very woo-woo, hokey-pokey level of our souls becoming like the greatest iteration that we can be, right? But to me, what does that look like in the day-to-day? It's forgiving myself for choices that maybe weren't ideal in the moment, and then being willing to shift into, okay, I did it this way yesterday, didn't love the outcome. Maybe this time I'm going to try it this way, and just allowing yourself to have some grace as we step into that. And it's not, a giant step. I think it's a Martin Luther King quote that I love so much. It's you don't have to be able to see the whole staircase. You just have to take the first step, and that's what faith is. So that's kind of the approach that I take when I think about like being born to rise. It's not the destination, it's those little steps that we take along the way that are ultimately going to lead to that place.
I mean, I heard forgiveness, grace, faith. That sounds very almost religious talk, but super like beautifully spiritual, which is where it would be nice if religion and spirituality were actually more in line than they can sometimes be. But did you grow up with a very spiritual background or religious practice?
Kind of a complicated answer, because on one hand, I grew up Roman Catholic, and I was a CCD teacher for a little bit. And, a lot of the members of my family are very, very entwined in Catholicism and their faith. But I also have 2 aunts on 2 different sides of my family who are psychic mediums.
Oh.
And who have always kind of followed the path of spirituality and kind of just loosened the idea of spirituality and religion. So as I've gotten older, I think that foundationally, there's a lot of that traditional, like, religious teaching in the back of my head, but the interpretation is a lot looser and a lot more loving and less critical.
Yeah, and I think that's a big piece, is that self-criticism, which is when you said forgiveness right away. I mean, I think that's so huge because, and I loved how you put it, how does it apply day to day? Because there is sort of this, that spirituality is this big thing that, woo, and the gods come down and the light shines and the things, which can be beautiful. And some people do experience that. And we have our day-to-day being on this planet in this human body doing all the things. And so I loved how you said that forgiveness piece, because, we as humans make mistakes. And I agree with you 100% that part of rising is being aware of that, having some grace with it, and the faith, or the, love for ourselves that we're going to be okay. We just have to reflect on the things that didn't work out so well and try to move forward. And that does take a lot of forgiveness, because we can get really stuck in that place. I agree. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, part of this for us is, of connecting and really understanding one another, I believe, is sharing stories. Why did you feel that this book was something you wanted to be a part of? And, as far as sharing stories and how that can affect people?
Well, I've always told stories. I've always written stories, journals, and tons of Word documents that never went anywhere, and, half-started blogs and all of that stuff. So I think that writing and reflecting has always been something that's been an integral part of who I am. Like, I feel like things get stuck in my head until I write them down. So when I went through my experience healing from my divorce, I knew that it was going to come out at some point, and I knew that it was a story that I needed to tell, because every time, the universe would put someone in my path who was going through something similar, I saw the power of what sharing my experience did in real time for somebody who was either going through it or had been through it, or the people that I reached out to when I was healing,
Yeah.
and what they had to say to me and how much it helped me heal. So I always knew that I was going to tell the story. And I think Born to Rise gave me the platform to tell the story in the way that I wanted to, because it's always been more important for me to talk about how I healed than what happened.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's something going on, like, in a broad sense right now, where everybody wants to hear about the terrible things that are happening to people and the terrible people that are doing terrible things to people, but nobody wants to talk about how did the survivor get to the other side of it?
Yeah.
What did they do? What did that look like in those hard moments? Not in the 2 years later, I'm making my debut again, and, I'm back on a red carpet, or, whatever it is in the, like, big stages.
Yeah.
What does that look like for a normal person? For,
Yeah.
like, a person who's just, like, trying to get it done and trying to pick up pick up the pieces and keep going. So
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to tell this story through the lens of Born to Rise.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. And I have a feeling we're going to hear a lot of COVID stories down the road, or have movies be made about this time in our lives, because so much happened in the last 2 years, and we were so isolated in it all, whether it was the racial issues that were going on, the presidency, the sicknesses and deaths, and the lack of connection with all those things. And so I think once we were able to get together and share those stories, or even get on Zoom with our friends and just say, hey, how are you? What's going on with you? And yeah, so I love that a lot. So yeah, well, I'm very excited for everyone to read your story. I got to read it. It resonated with me very strongly. You do have such grace, and I love the way that you shared your story is really to the point that you just made about, what are the things we can do to get to the other side. And so I really appreciated that version of your story. So thank you, Alexa.
Thank you.
So make sure you guys read her story, and touch base with Alexa by reaching her through her information below. And thanks for joining, everybody. And thank you, Alexa, for coming on today.
Thank you, Kim.
All right.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.